Hello and welcome to A Gypsy's Kiss, the book club. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Stick with us a couple of seconds and we will talk about The Thrill of the Chase, Chapter 17, My War for Me, Part 3.
Yes, we are live, as you may have heard.
You'd think I knew how this stuff worked.
Yeah, you're funny. You should all see Toby when we have guests, and he's always, shh, don't talk during the intro, and he's always the one talking. So let's get started today with some housekeeping. We want to send out thank yous to our moderators, Jimmy Fast, Joel Lewicki, Jason Eunice, Brian Eagle, and Eric Schmidt. Our presentation today, as Toby said, Chapter 17, Part 3. We will follow with open Q&A, anything about the book from before up to this point, and anything else you'd like to...
Anything about anything.
Anything about anything, as long as it's about...
Kind of since
AGK, Forrest Fenn, or whatever, you know,
us.
stay on topic.
Stand.
I know we don't like, or you can tell us about your 4th of July. That's okay too. We don't care. All right.
Share your 4th of July experience with the room,
Sure.
and don't forget when you enter the room, tell everybody where you're from. That would be nice, and then talk about what you guys did for July 4th.
July 4th. Yeah. So what did I do? Mostly I stayed home and did computer work that I needed to catch up on. And then about 9:15, Kevin and I went out on the balcony and watched some fireworks.
Which happened basically in your backyard, don't they?
Yeah, we have the kind of house that just kind of looks over the fireworks display. So, you know, a 4th of July and New Year's Eve are... good opportunities for
at
us.
Chateau Carnet.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I better talk about the giveaway first.
Giveaway.
Okay. We have a giveaway today. Today's giveaway is Aunt Lucy's cookbook. I'll autograph the one of the photographs, and I have some new rules that I made because you guys are being monsters about this. And our wine today is Pool Boy.
Pool Boy. Oh, Pool Boy.
A French rosé, and they marketed them. The marketing is interesting. Basically, it says, Pool Boy allows you to enjoy the French lifestyle anytime with its compact, unbreakable, lightweight, recyclable container. Plastic. It's my first bottle of wine ever in a plastic container.
Free?
And I guess the idea is that you can take it with you any place, including a pool, because,
What's this say?
I don't know.
Oh, it just says plastic.
Because, for example, the pool here at my apartment complex doesn't allow glass
Right.
into the pool area. So
most of them don't.
So, Pool Boy rosé.
Yeah.
You ready?
Let's try it out.
2.
2,700.
2,700. Oh, actually, not bad. Nice rosé. Very summery, refreshing rosé.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be super sweet, like one of those fruit wines or whatever.
No, it's very good. I like it. We'll have to go out to the pool afterwards.
Yes.
Did you bring your bikini?
I guess not.
Rats.
Well, we could do a little skinny dipping.
Yeah, we could. Shock all the poor senior citizens living in my gated community.
I don't, maybe not.
A couple of heart attacks there.
Maybe not.
Okay. So, have we done? Yeah, we have.
Next.
All
right. So, Forrest Fenn Memoirs Book Club. Thrill of the Chase, Chapter 17, My War for Me, Part 3, which encompasses the second half of page 81 through all of page 84.
Hang on, let me just get my stream correct here.
And if you saw my poster that I put out today, I included somebody jumping out of an airplane, a military man jumping out of an airplane. So that's kind of what we're covering today.
He looks more special ops than he did Air Force pilot.
He looked like he was waving, and whoever was taking the picture too.
If you're going to jump from an airplane, you might as well get a picture, right? Let's see. I need to go back to full screen here in just a minute. So you ready to start? What else do we need? I feel like I'm missing something. So we have Aunt Lucy's cookbook.
The wine.
That. There's a couple of quotes I want to refer to in the book, but let's get through your stuff.
Do you have any pictures you want to talk about?
No. The pictures haven't, to me, indicated anything, and I think it's primarily because of his history. Because of his history in Vietnam. But there was a couple of interesting and motivating quotes that I'd like to refer to later, if you didn't already cover them in here.
We probably are including them. So, because I
Let
like
me,
to hear
just
you
make sure everybody
pronounce all those difficult words.
Make sure everybody's okay in the chat room, and I gotta see if I don't know if our
moderators are
in. Oh, Jason Eunice is in, so we're good.
Okay.
And I just saw.
You do anything special for the 4th?
No, I was planning to go fishing, but my knee still felt bad enough that basically I tended to it. Riced it, rest, ice compression, and elevation. So, and caught up on my reading, mostly.
And I've asked you this before, but the fireworks, they don't bother you? The loud sounds?
No. I don't suffer from, at least to the best of my knowledge, I don't suffer from that kind of PTSD. Every time you go for a visit, and I go to the VA hospital pretty regularly for my visits, they start each visit with a set of questions to determine your state of mind and further to determine whether or not you're experiencing any PTSD. So I've been very fortunate not to have been diagnosed with it. And I think that's mostly my approach to kind of returning to my real life. Like I said, by the time I got back from within a year of Vietnam, I was, I had 2 children and still trying to finish my military service, trying to make plans for the future. And so I focused on that and got it out of my system as quickly as I could. And I think that helped. So, and the volunteering, I think the fact that I volunteered for literally everything that got me there and kept me there. I was there by choice. So didn't have a lot to complain about. Thankfully.
All right. Get started.
That is not not to disrespect any veteran or non-veteran for that matter who does experience PTSD. It's a horrendous disease. I
but they are making great strides in it. I watched that program today called The Doctors, and they actually have a shot now that can help improve those symptoms, because when you go through a traumatic event such as they have, your brain changes. There are physical changes to your brain, and they have developed a medication that can reshape that area of the brain and bring it back to pre-traumatic event, so that basically healing that injury so that they don't suffer so much. So they are making great strides in that. Well,
good. I'm happy to hear that, because I have acquaintances, I won't call them friends, acquaintances that I know do experience some symptoms of PTSD. And it's been my experience that one of the challenges of dealing with someone who has PTSD, they're like the 12 steps. They need to admit that that's what they're experiencing, and it's hard to do because there's a lot of people that perceive things like PTSD are psychological problems. They're not. They're physiological problems.
They are
that affect the brain, and now, as you said, they have. I'm not going to call it a cure because it's still in the experimental stages, but it certainly is showing promise.
Yeah, they're even changing it over to PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. So if any of you have friends, family members, associates who are experiencing what was up until now referred to as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and now being referred to, as Shelley said, as PTSI. Let them know that there's new ways to help individuals who are, wow, I didn't realize that. So I cut myself. Sorry, you guys. It's not a mole. I cut myself shaving this morning, and I just looked at the camera and realized. So sorry. Bad job of cleaning that mess up.
And it's not PTSD.
And it's not PTSD. Okay, switching over to full frame. Let's get started here. We've been spinning out. They'll get mad at us because we're talking about stuff that is not funny enough.
That's not funny.
All right, here we go. The Thrill of the Chase by Forrest Fenn, Chapter 17, Charlie, My War for Me, Part 3, pages 81 through 84. And as we've mentioned in the past, if this is the first time you've seen one of our book clubs, we decided that the chapter in Fenn's book, although he doesn't title them or number them, called My War for Me, he does title them but not number them, called My War for Me is big enough that it's going to take multiple segments to handle it. This is the third of 7 segments that we expect to handle it in. So here we go, page 82, paragraph 2. It was a funeral. We were traveling so fast no one had heard us coming, and when I rolled my wing down, I could see nothing but panic and yelling and screaming and stampeding and terrible fear. It was horrible. Women were running with their babies in their arms. Children had started fleeing in every direction with their arms up as if they were surrendering. One old, bearded man with 2 walking sticks just looked at me as if he were resolved to meet his fate.
Well, Fenn describes this scene as if it is burned into his memory and his dreams. This feels like one of those moments he described as branding and life-altering. Most pilots don't see the faces of the people they are bombing, so it had to be a shock to witness the terror he was causing in the civilian population. Have you ever seen that?
Not quite that. Our experience is that when we walked through a village, so the cities and towns,
we're used to.
We're used to the idea that there were American troops there. Not that the villages out in the field weren't. We operated in an area that was on the western edge of the lower part 4 Corps. In a mountainous area, or area of operations was a mountainous area called the Seven Sisters. And, of course, we had to go through villages. And for the most part, they expressed their fear just by being quiet and reticent. Unless you spoke to one of them. And because I was with the Narvin Ranger unit, we had lots of people who could speak Vietnamese and who could, I don't want to say interrogate them, but could ask them questions. But for the most part, they were as afraid of you as they were the Vietnamese communists in the area. So it wasn't a pleasant feeling. It was made better and a lot easier because I was with an ARVN unit that my whole time was spent with ARVN Rangers. But it was still difficult, and you could still see the fear in their eyes if they even raised their eyes to look up at you. And they were, it was that feeling of uncertainty that they must have experienced. And it was certainly one of the things that anybody who spent time there could regret. At the same time, they were suffering under the Vietnamese communists who were raiding them at night and taking their food stores and raping their women and stealing their young men, So it was not a good place to be a member of a rural community in Vietnam. Certainly wouldn't want to see it anyplace else. Page 82, paragraph 4. I was so ashamed. Let me start that again. I was so ashamed. I started crying in my oxygen mask, sobbing. I could hardly see through the dark visor of my helmet, and the salty tears burned my eyes in a way I had not known for a long time. Suddenly, I hated Lyndon Johnson and Robert Mcnamara and all of the other politicians who were sitting in their fat offices at home, totally oblivious to what the war was really like. So for those of you that aren't aware, Robert Mcnamara was an executive from Ford Motors who had come over to run the Defense Department during the war. He recently wrote a really good book on his time period there with kind of some eye-opening realizations of that experience for him. So if you read either history or politics, I would recommend getting that book.
Well, this had to be a difficult admission to make, but sharing his feelings solidifies the understanding of how much his life changed in that moment, and going from a gung-ho pilot to a disgusted, overused, worn-out veteran.
Yeah, there's a couple of points, especially in this section that we're reading, that gives me the impression he was a bit of an adrenaline junkie. But there's the byproduct of being an adrenaline junkie, and that's the coming down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always emotional and depressing. There's nothing happy about it,
Right.
coming down from an adrenaline high. Page 82, paragraph 5. On the 1st of November 1968, all flying in the north stopped, and we started bombing in South Vietnam again and in Laos, which was also dangerous air. President Johnson, who was now maneuvering for peace, very unsuccessfully, by the way, was telling everyone at home that we weren't bombing the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos, but no one told us we weren't. And the reason is, if you look at where the Ho Chi Minh Trail started in Laos, that was kind of above what was then the DMZ between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. It was actually north. He mentions, I think it's in this chapter, a location in Laos called Chapon. And oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's north of the DMZ line between, although it's in Laos, it's north of the DMZ between what was then South Vietnam and North Vietnam, and it enabled the North Vietnamese army and the North Vietnamese support to enter the Ho Chi Minh Trail by going directly from North Vietnam into Laos and then south, and then making the curve and coming back into South Vietnam, anywhere from west of Saigon into the Mekong Delta area.
Knowing that lies were being presented to the American people and the world about the war in Vietnam has to put one's patriotism and allegiance to the test.
And it did. And for those of us that were alive, not just veterans, but for those of us that were alive in that period, we saw it. We saw that period between 1965 and at the peak of it during the election year in 1968, where literally America had a transitional moment and we changed. And we divided. I would say that some of the polarization started then, but it wasn't as obvious as it is now because it wasn't leveraged by the politicians as much as it is now. But back then, you were divided into, you either agreed with the war or you didn't. And so I had lots of friends that I'd gone to high school and college with who were against the war. And I couldn't pick sides necessarily because I was still in the service. But I chose to believe in what an American soldier swears to believe in, and that's the Constitution, and they had every right to do that. And I still feel that way. I don't criticize anyone. I've met people who, let me know that that when they find out I'm in Vietnam, they say, well, I didn't serve, and then they go to the next step and say, as a matter of fact, I protested against the war. And I thank them for their protest, because that's what you're supposed to do with the Constitution. If you find something that you don't like, you protest it, and I certainly don't hold any ill will. There were some really angry ones that would greet us at the airport, at the air base, as we came off of Travis Air Force Base in Oakland, California, and would try the spitting and the calling of baby killers and stuff like that. But I survived it. Some of my best times were spent in Oakland, in bars in Oakland, California, waiting for my next flight, as people treated me with such kindness. So thank you, Oakland. Page 82, paragraph 6. About 6 weeks later, on the 20th of December, 3 wingmen and I took off for a serious target at Chapon, Laos. That's the target. That is basically the first entry point of the Ho Chi Minh Trail from North Vietnam at that time. Both the Air Force and the Navy had lost planes on that target in previous days, and the intelligence officer who briefed us on the mission didn't tell us jokes as he was supposed to.
So we're beginning the main story with the history and the danger involved in the mission.
Page 83, paragraph 3, 18 days earlier, so within a period of 18 days, in December of 1968, he was shot down twice. He describes the second shoot down first, and then he comes back and he makes mention of the first one that he experienced 18 days later in this paragraph. 18 days earlier, had been shot down near Binh Thuy in the Delta region of South Vietnam. Binh Thuy was at the time a small town just northwest of Can Tho, which is the biggest city in the Delta. And Can Tho is on a tributary of the Mekong River, which forms the Delta region. Now, the Delta goes off to the east and into the South China Sea, and then there's a big Delta-shaped section of Vietnam that some people refer to as the Delta. It's not. It's just the southern part of South Vietnam that is divided by the Mekong River and its tributaries. Binh Thuy was also the home to an air base that supported both Army and Air Force. Air Force flew in and out of there, refueled there. But Army, we had Army aircraft, Huey's, Apaches, was it Apaches then? U-9 Beavers, which were the observation aircraft, forward air controller aircraft. So a lot of aircraft flew out of Binh Thuy. And that's where the hospital was. That's where the American hospital was for that part of the country. So if you were injured or wounded, you'd go there first.
18 days earlier.
I better, you know what, I should read this first before I start telling stories. 18 days earlier, I'd been shot down near Binh Thuy in the Delta region of South Vietnam, and it taught me that bad luck is not something that always happens to the other guy. I thought that any landing I could walk away from was a good one. The incident at Binh Thuy taught me that some landings I could limp away from were also good. When in combat, even if there was chaos all around me, there was always a feeling of tranquility that came from the firm belief that I was totally invincible. May I say something about that? There is a point where if you feel like you're going to make it through whatever this is, however it is defined for you, you get very egotistical and think of yourself as invincible, and it's not a good idea, because what happens soon after that is you find out you're not quite as, which is what he experienced here. You're not quite as invincible as you thought you were, but that sense of invincibility, and the sense that you were going to make it through this, I believe, this is a personal opinion, was the best measure of the likelihood of you surviving whatever your tour was, whether it was in the air, on the ground, or in the water. So I can understand that sense that he was experiencing.
Well, having flown so many successful missions gave Fenn the confidence that eventually led him to being shot down twice. Having lived through it the first time, he felt invincible, even though he was aware of the danger and what other pilots had suffered.
Page 83, paragraph 4. But at Chapone, the instant it became evident that my airplane wasn't going to take me home, every feeling I had seemed to have a mind... Every feeling I had seemed to have a mind of its own. There was no panic or heightened sense of anxiety, but my brain shifted into an adrenaline overdrive. Confidence can only come with knowledge and training, although a good ego helps. That was one of the quotes that I wanted to talk about. Do you mind if I address that?
Go ahead.
So it's interesting. I thought it was interesting the way he stated that confidence can only come with knowledge and training, although a good ego helps, because knowledge and training is what produces that confidence necessary to go on to win. I shared with you before the line that I used with my girls' soccer teams. I used to say to them, winning builds confidence, losing builds character. And you have to have that balance in your life to understand who you are and what you are. But a good ego helps. And an ego is something that was developed for you emotionally over the span of your entire life. As you have more successes, as you achieve greater things, it helps to build your ego. And I have been accused on pretty regular a basis that I have a big ego. And my response to that is, yes, it's true, but I feel like I've earned that ego. Not that I'm intolerable, but I have a feeling that Fenn feels like whatever ego he does have, and I could propose that he has a pretty good-sized ego, that ego was earned, and he's okay with it, and I think everybody should be as well.
Well, confidence does come with knowledge and training, but also with experience. Although he was shot down once before, he was able to land his aircraft that time. This was the first time Fenn was forced to eject and use his parachute.
Page 84, paragraph 1. Every night during my year in Vietnam, the last thing I thought of before going to sleep was my bailout procedure. It was burned into my brain.
So I wonder if Fenn rehearsed hiding the treasure in the same way. Burned into his brain. Rehearsed it every night before falling asleep.
Certainly that process of visualization, because we go back to that. That's what that is. Visualization, whether the next day you're making a presentation and you spend the night just before you go to sleep, visualizing in a positive way that presentation as opposed to, of course, a disastrous way. Or you visualize, as he did, his bailout procedure, or as many of us did, our recovery procedure. If you had a failure, if you had a round that jammed in your weapon, whatever weapon it was, you went through the process of remembering specifically the steps you had to take to clear it as rapidly as possible and correct the problem. So I am not surprised to hear that was what he was thinking about. At the same time, you're always hoping that you don't have to invoke that procedure, that it never happens to you. So it was good that he did spend those night times visualizing what it was, because I'm sure it had a big impact, considering the various possibilities of ejection, because ejection is all dependent. A lot of it is dependent on what happened to get you there.
Right.
Whether or not the ejection system was damaged, or whether or not your canopy is going to lift off, and then the procedure. And there's a very high percentage, 20-25% of injuries that occur as a result of the ejection, and some of them because of the mechanism they use, the 37 millimeter cannon and the rocket that fires you 150 feet up into the air. If you don't do exactly what they describe to do, there's a chance you're going to seriously injure your back. And there are people who don't walk to this day as a result of mishandling the ejection, not usually through any fault of their own, but it does occur. So it's good to see that he didn't.
Did you want to say that? I got one more question to ponder.
Oh,
I read
Fenn,
the first one.
Oh, okay. Fenn gives step-by-step instructions and descriptions of ejecting from his plane, using 2 full pages for the information. Did he perhaps write out the directions for locating the treasure in this great detail before turning it into a poem? So, to me, recognizing that he claims he spent 15 years writing this poem, it had to be done. It strikes me that at some point along his lifetime, Fenn realized that he enjoyed writing. And so people who enjoy writing, and you know that I'm simply not one of those, but people who enjoy writing find ways to write. And so whether you're writing your memories or a plan for hiding a treasure or a description of the physical, of a physical environment that later will become indicators in a poem that transitions into a map that tells you where treasure. I could see very much where he did that kind of planning and writing. So there were a couple of things that I thought were interesting that I do. Back to page 81 in that second paragraph, the second full paragraph, he says, at 12 miles a minute, the geography was changing fast and my brain was thinking and planning minutes ahead. And that to me is that indicator of what I call the chess brain, where you're not only considering where you are at this moment, but where things are going to be.
You call it the what?
The chess brain. Chess C-H-E,
chest
as in the
brain.
game.
Okay.
Chest brain.
Sorry. You
Right.
kind of slid that together. I
Oh,
thought it was
okay.
one word.
Well,
Chest
it's because
brain.
I've said it often that it comes out. It probably comes out as one word. The chest brain.
Okay.
And if for those of you who are a chess player, you know that part of the chess brain that makes a good chess player is the ability to operate in a way that enables you to envision all the potential moves. 3, 4, 5, and the more experienced a player you are, the more moves you can that you can envision. And so it sounded like he had developed that part of his brain as a fighter pilot, because they are. If you interview fighter pilots, what I've had the opportunity to do is they all have that chest brain, and the reason is everything is moving so rapidly. They have to make assumptions that what's going to happen in the near future. And that future sometimes is less than a minute for them. Sometimes it's less than 10 or 12 seconds for them, et cetera, et cetera. But they're very good. They all have that chest brain, and I could see some of that in Fenn, and I could see how it could impact what's going on here. The impression that you get is that his chest brain enabled him, as he was developing this process of building the treasure and planning to put it into effectively the public domain, was that his chest brain was enabling him to evaluate all the possibilities. And for the ones that he couldn't reconcile as he evaluated them, then he went to a lawyer or whomever. It could have been Eric Sloan, it could have been his father, but he wanted to talk about him with the purpose of eliminating as much as possible to eliminate all the unplanned events, so that he kind of knows everything that's going to happen. And that's very comforting for me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's very comforting for me to know that he considered all the possible outcomes that could happen as a result of placing this treasure in the mountains somewhere north of Santa Fe.
And which is why where warm waters halt is not only the first clue, but it's the most important clue, as he had just said. In which article was that?
It's the most recent Margie Goldsmith article.
Because the decision you're making at this very moment, or the very first decision you make, opens up those other possibilities for you. So if you don't make that first decision correctly, you've just eliminated any chance you had of being correct.
Right. That's the chess. If you're playing a game of chess and your first move is bad,
you're done.
You're done. Yeah, effectively, you're done. And I don't know necessarily that I need to say this, but as a result of the Margie Goldsmith article that I read yesterday and that I've posted information on the past couple of days, I am now convinced, and I feel like I can say with confidence, if you don't have warm waters halt down to a precise geographic location, don't go out and play that game of chess. Mm. Because now it's not only the first clue, Fenn tells us in this most recent quote that it is the most important clue. And my interpretation of that is that if you don't know where it is precisely, stay home and play canasta. Canasta.
Yeah, if you're just guessing at it, you're not ready.
Cover this up? I mean, Jesus Christ.
I asked you. You're fine.
Okay, so...
You're a veteran.
I'm a veteran. I can take this.
You're a disabled veteran.
John Bobbitt in the room. Is John Bobbitt in the room?
Who gave us money? Let's do that.
Okay, Brian Eagle.
Oh, I lost my sound.
And he said, what's up with all the hate online? People are bonkers. Am I right? Oh,
Why
I'm sorry,
is my sound not doing this?
I don't know, because you turned your sound off because everybody was calling you?
No. Now it's off. Now it's on. I see. Nope.
No.
That's weird.
Okay, just do ka-ching.
Ka-ching!
Thank you, Brian Eagle, for your contribution to our project. You still could ask a question, because I don't think what's up with all the haters online is a question that I can answer. We know they're there.
We've been talking about that with some friends as well, who are also on forums and blogs and that sort of thing, and the kind of death threats and hate mail that are possible when you get involved in this community. And I think it's proportionately large or proportionately active compared to other industries or YouTube channels or other areas of interest. This particular community is so passionate that it can
The
be
passion can
frightening.
overflow.
It can be frightening.
We had dinner with someone this week whose name we cannot share because they asked us not to, and they told us some stories about events that we in comparison to us having a troll here online, the stories we heard at dinner on Tuesday were enough to, well, look, see it curl my hair.
Which is why this person protects their identity.
Yeah. Okay, so you ready to go in the chat room? There you go. It's back.
I don't know what happened, but it's working now.
Back. Okay, so
That was an accident.
I was going to say we're just going into the chat room.
Well, we just talked about death threats. So
That reminds me that every time Toby sends me, Toby Renee sends me one of those Instagram posts where she was making fun of the babies, and she zooms in on it. She uses that piece of music. So that's why. Okay, quickly. So if you, like Brian Eagle, would like to contribute to our project using Super Chat, there is a $sign down at the bottom of the screen, and you click on that $sign and you decide what you want to do. And again, Brian, thank you very much. That was very kind of you.
And remember, it's the first week of the year, so everybody just got paid.
First week of the
of the month. I should say. The new year. If you start your new year in July.
Yeah, your fiscal year has started.
It could be, you know what I mean.
And John Bobbitt's in the room. John Bobbitt, I just want to say I read that Vanity Fair article, the one that was online, and so I wanted to know your opinion on the matter before we talked about it. Okay, so let's transition back to full screen. And we're going to leave this and go to the chat room.
All right. And now we're in the chat room. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. Let's say hello to our friends.
Okay.
Eric Schmidt, good afternoon. Dave Erickson, hello. Jason Eunice, hi. Adam Foddy's here.
Oh, hey, Adam.
We haven't
How are
seen
you
you in
doing?
a while.
We haven't seen you. Yeah, we haven't. Well, he has been checking, commenting on our Facebook posts.
That's true.
So nice
He's
to
been
see you
on
again,
vacation, so he must be
that's right.
having a little bit of
Mallorca.
a few spare moments.
Mallorca, no less.
Yeah,
Nice place.
very nice.
Very
With his
UK.
family, that's wonderful. Fossman123, hello. And JL. Brent from Austin, Texas. Happy day after the 4th. That's right. DeCall Thomas is here.
Hey, DeCall.
Michael is still in Rennes. Is it Rennes?
Rennes.
France. Still.
Still. Yeah, we feel sorry for you. Michael, by the way, is going to be our guest on next Wednesday's panel. He lives in Tokyo, travels apparently all over the world, and makes it back to the U.S., I think, 5 or 6 times to go treasure hunting. So we'll talk to him next week.
Yeah. Tammy Mattis is here from Illinois. Craig Whittles. That's a new name on me.
I don't remember. Hi, Craig.
Yeah.
Welcome to the group.
Yeah. Rick Plank from Cincinnati. Mark Conway. Yo. Michael Bruno. Hi.
He's been here before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ed Vandenbrink. That's a new one on me, too.
Wilder, Idaho.
Welcome. Jeremy Milstead. Steve from Oregon. Edward Owen from Boise. Mark Conway. Let's see. I think we got... Lori James is here from Salida, one of my favorite places. Kentucky man, Mike Patterson from Kentucky. And David Dow.
Mark Conway, 10 miles south of Toledo. And 300 miles west is that treasure. From Toledo.
Toledo, Ohio.
Have you ever been through Toledo?
I don't think so. Now, we have... My husband has family in Ohio, so we've been in a few places in Ohio, but I don't think we ever went
Dayton.
to Toledo.
I don't think I've ever been to Toledo.
Dayton, yes. Cincinnati, we've been to. I don't think we went up north to the Cleveland and all of that. All of that. So yeah.
T.I. stayed in the air conditioning.
111 in Phoenix today.
Ow, jeez.
It's cooler here today because we're expecting maybe a storm this evening.
Brent Grilled Burgers, nice.
Yummy. I'm at the bottom.
Okay, there goes. Did Lori say she was getting rain?
Lori James?
Uh-huh.
Sweet rain yesterday and promising today.
Yay.
So she's having our rain today. She's going to send it down here tonight.
Putting out some of those fires, hopefully.
Yeah.
Mark Conway, right there.
Doop-a-doop. My dad spent his whole tour in Laos as a pilot, says Michael Cohen.
Mm.
And Robert Walker's here. Michael Cohen's here.
Who said
Jimmy Fast is here.
Spent in Laos? Where's that?
Oh, here.
Spent his tour in Laos. Michael, it is likely that he spent his tour in Thailand. If I remember correctly, we weren't able to land our forces in Laos. We could bomb them, though. So.
Should have let us land
Happy
there.
Cinco de Julio. You're making that up, Robert Walker.
What? Angry? Who's angry? I just had the grand opening last week for the golf course I built in Alameda, right across the street from the Oakland airport. Wow.
Mm.
Congratulations, David Dow.
So Jason Eunice was asking if Michael's father was a FAC, which stands for Forward Air Controller. Those were some of the bravest guys I ever knew because they flew in a very lightweight, Jason Eunice can tell you the kind of aircraft, but it was basically a Piper Cub, thin-skinned. The skin was made of silk that had been lacquered to give it stiffness. And so they literally had no protection. They flew at under 500 feet, and they directed aircraft and artillery into a particular area, but the whole time they were being shot at. As a matter of fact, I was going to point out, Forrest mentions that, it's in this chapter, he mentions that when he wasn't doing anything, he went on ride-alongs with forward air controllers. So to me, that was pretty, what's another word for ballsy?
Well, you just said that, so why bother? Confident?
Confidence, yeah.
Goldilocks is here.
Hey, Goldilocks.
And we did say hi to Brian Eagle already. But we'll say it again. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
His father was a FAC? And that's what you were talking about?
Forward air controller.
And he received a medal for flying some men out of a place the plane couldn't fly into or out of. Well, apparently it did fly in and out.
We want to hear that story.
Jeep Girl Jody's here from Colorado. Did you leave her a message?
I don't know if that's the same Jody.
Oh. We may have left you a message, Jody. if it's you.
Jimmy Fast back in the house. David Dow talking golf.
This golf course. Saved 3 men from overrun. Citation said for removal of explosive device, but he told me before he died what happened.
Well, Brian, we're glad to have you back in the room. Thank you. You know what? I should say more than thank you. Brian was the one that introduced me to a lot of the tools that we're using now to improve the quality and integrity of our channel while still not having to...
Channel or the blog?
The channel. And the blog, actually. But while still not having to increase post-production time. Or we basically eliminated post-production time. So thank you for that, Brian.
Sean Dodson's here.
Hey, Sean Dodson. How are you doing?
John Bobbitt's here.
John Bobbitt. New article in Vanity Fair. And it's funny because it does mention the Forrest Fenn treasure. It's got, I don't know, a sentence and a half where the article in Vanity Fair mentions that John is focused on finding the treasure. Brian, we haven't had enough to get tipsy yet. I'm still on my first glass here, but thanks for bringing it up. So every time somebody uses Gypsy Kiss, I'm going to...
Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Michael Cohen wants to let us know that he has something to say about the stick drawing on page 99 when the time comes.
Okay, when we get there, Michael.
Yeah, remind us when we get there.
Make sure you remind us when we get there. We're not quite there yet, but it is
No,
in
we only
this,
got to page 84, so probably be a couple more weeks.
It is in this chapter, and we've got a couple of sections before we get to it, but make sure you bring it up. And the reason I want to do that is because when we were at the Collected Works bookstore and kind of following the folks that were asking Fenn to sign their respective books, whatever they were, there seemed to be a lot of them interested in page 99. So must be something there that everybody sees that I haven't seen yet. So, Brian, we agree with you. Keyboard courage, yeah.
Yeah. Saffron is here. Hello. And J-Raw from Colorado. And Fosselman speculates that Forrest Fenn felt the pressure to write from all the great writers he knew, like Eric Sloane. If they could write, so could he.
I think there's something there. I mean, he knew Douglas Preston and Michael McGarity. It was part of his little Pink Adobe. I should probably tell you what the Pink Adobe is, a gathering place in Santa Fe, right there on the Old Pecos Trail, close to downtown, within a couple of blocks of downtown, right across from the school that I used to go to and the church that I used to sing in, believe it or not. But yeah, I think he had a lot of writers in his crowd, and because he was so here's the funny thing, because I know the experience. When you're a good storyteller, people will tell you should write that story, and yeah. What they don't realize is that being a good storyteller, an oral storyteller, doesn't necessarily make you I was going to say,
a different part of the brain from writing.
Yeah. I was going to say it doesn't necessarily make you a good writer. The reason you're telling those stories is because you don't have the patience to write them down, and it's easier for you to tell the stories than it is to write them down. I know I experienced.
Plus, if you write them down, then everybody will call you on your embellishments.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then they have evidence.
That's right. And I can
Scrolling down.
You weren't supposed to talk about that.
Okay, so Saffron, J-Raw, Fossilman, Jason Eunice. Jason Eunice is covering the territory with Michael. Scrolling down. And I got a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right there.
So Cherry's here.
AGK, hey Toby, how's it hanging, dude? John Bobbitt, wonderfully.
Cherry wants to know, do you think that No Place for the Meek is an actual place?
We're going to be talking about those symbols in a couple of weeks. We already have next Tuesday's show planned out, but the week after that, we're going to talk about symbols in poetry and the No Place for the Meek. So to me, it's a symbol for a location. Yes, I guess the simple answer to your question is yes. I think you can tie the symbolism in that sentence to a specific location. The problem is how you interpret it. So one way to interpret No Place for the Meek is, let's say it's a location in the Balkans where there is a high probability of stepping on a mine that was planted back in the 90s, right? No place for the meek. And so if I was writing a poem about the Balkans and I wanted to describe those places that had those mines, I would say it would be No Place for the Meek. So you always have to do it in the context of whatever symbol Fenn visualized in order to use that verbiage in the poem. So to answer your question, the answer to your question is yes. It does represent something visible, something physical, but as a result of being using the symbolism, you have to figure out what it represents, because symbolism is all about translating the real world, the real physical world, into the metaphysical, the symbolic. So when I say Well, I won't give you another example. Just use the example that I had, and you take the physical world and you translate it into a symbol. But generally speaking, poetry has always been recognized from probably Shakespeare on because of the way he wrote and because of the symbolism. Symbolism has always been accepted in poetry as representative of the physical world. So I would say that's true for every one of the clues in the poem, in my opinion.
I missed this question from Jason. He says,
Okay.
Toby, how do you think that feeling of invincibility and I did my part affected Forrest Fenn's view of laws and rules around native collecting?
So I've got to believe that at some point that sense of invincibility, that sense of entitlement, I guess is the best way to describe it. So you're not only invincible, you've defended the Constitution, and somehow or the other, the impression that you have is that gives you some sort of right. So the question that always has to be asked of Fenn, and I'm sure has been asked more than once, is whatever collecting he did, what side of the law was it on? And my experience with people who collect is they're always on the border of legality and not. So I'm going to assume that because of his having spent 20 years, having survived a year in combat, having saved up $20,000 enough to establish a credible gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico, what happens is when you have that kind of success, not only do you start thinking of yourself as invincible, but you start thinking of yourself as absolutely correct about everything. So it gives you the freedom, and there are politicians today that because they've had some success believe not only that they're invincible, but that they're absolute. And that can lead to problems. And of course, he experienced some of those problems because in the late 2000s, the FBI raided his house. They didn't pursue the case because they didn't have enough evidence. And that could either be he was A, really good at hiding evidence, which I don't think is necessarily his strategy, or B, whatever he did was within the law. I can't answer for that because what little Native American blood I have in me is not directly tied. I don't even know where it comes from. I don't know if it's Pueblo or Navajo or Plains or whatever. So it's not a part of me enough to be able to be critical of him. But I'm sure that at some point he probably followed the law at the very margins of the law. And that comes from a matter of the success that he had achieved. There's a point at which you feel like you can get away with anything, or at least you can try to get away with anything. It doesn't always pay off.
All right. Holly Purd is here.
Hi, Holly.
Unknown Searcher is here.
Is that a name? Unknown Searcher.
Colin Bostick is
New
here
name
from Louisville.
From Louisville. A couple of people from Kentucky today.
Brian Eagle says, have you compared the old version of My War for Me in a Wyoming publication that appears online with the TTOTC version? We're reviewing here. Interesting parts missing in the old version.
Yeah, what little I have done in that area, the first thing that you'll find out is what we called the preface to this chapter. That first section that we covered doesn't exist in that one. And there are sections that are missing, and I think the additions came with the result of the more time you had to kind of document your experiences and consider them in the context of everything that you were trying to say. So I do know that the one in the book is longer. I'm not going to call it significantly longer. It's probably the difference between 25, maybe 22 to 25 and 30 pages, but there are differences and you can make the comparison. I didn't find there was nothing in the comparison. I spent a night on it and didn't find the differences significant enough to pursue them, in terms of my solution.
Yeah, it's just like when you go back over something that you wrote years ago and you say, you know what, I could change a little bit here and add an opening summary, and that would help with clarity, and that could be all the extent of it was. John says he hasn't read the article in the Washingtonian or the Vanity Fair issue. Vanity Fair issue, and he's going out to Washington, D.C. in a couple of weeks to do a 2-hour special with 2020. Well, congratulations.
Okay. So congratulations for that. The Vanity Fair article is long and leaning towards what I'd say Lorena. It doesn't present you in a negative light, but, they were focused on her life. I didn't know there was one in the Washingtonian. I'll take a look at the one in the Washingtonian as well. For those of you who don't know, Washingtonian is a magazine local to the Washington metro area. It's very highly regarded. And the 2-hour special with 2020, I also read in the Vanity Fair article that there is a 4-part series, and didn't know if that was 2020 or somebody else that's producing it. So congratulations on all of that.
Michael Cohen says, we sent his mail, his dad. We sent his mail to Thailand, but he was in Laos.
Oh, interesting. So flying someplace out of Laos there. Okay, I'm going to scroll up to Eric Schmidt. See him? And he's right there.
All I know is it moved and I can't see anything anymore.
Hi, all Jimmy
I'm
Fast.
sure it'll
Eric
pop
Schmidt says, hi, Holly. Unknown searcher. Version. Okay, we're right there.
Cherry says, also, why not wise and in the wood and brave find the blaze instead of wise, blaze, brave wood?
We think, okay, so we can only talk in the context of our solution. We do not incorporate anything in the 5th and 6th stanzas into our solution. The wise and the blaze, we believe, does have a connection. The wise connected to the blaze. But it would be our guess, it's our guess in our solution, and we have not yet found, we know what we're looking for, kind of, or we have the ability to visualize it, but we have not yet found that particular clue. Obviously, if we had, no, my stomach would not be bigger. We'd have a box. We'd have a 10 by 10 by 6 box of treasure.
Well,
that we'd be sharing
actually
with you.
Was doing some work on reading tarot on the Blaze this week, and what I found was that you have to kind of use your intuition and understand when you get there that is the Blaze, and you're going to want to dismiss it and walk away and move on and say no, that couldn't be it, but you have to overcome that and really understand that yes, that is the Blaze. Don't walk away. Pay attention. So that's what I can offer you. Oh, everybody's saying Gypsy's Kiss. So we got Pool boy.
David Dow, AGK, Toby, do you know what a REMF, that's Romeo Echo Mike Foxtrot? I can tell you that the first 2 letters are rear echelon. You'll have to work with the second 2 on your own.
Is it a real thing, or is it a?
It's a term that's used by forward echelon personnel.
Oh.
To refer to rear echelon.
I see. Okay, I figured it out.
Okay, scrolling up to Jason Eunice.
Jeep Girl Jody says, I didn't get any messages, but I was camping. Email me. I am catching up on this chapter. Great job so far. This topic I can't relate to with Forrest, so I like your views as a veteran.
Thank you. I enjoy sharing them.
I agree. I felt the same way. So that's why I wanted to make sure we told some of those stories to give you a setting to help expand that, what it looked like, what it smelled like, what the people were like, so that you could have a better feel for what Forrest was living through.
Jody, I sent it this morning, and the reason I sent it this morning is I discovered this morning that the person that I did have planned for this week is actually in the Gulf of Mexico on a fishing trip. So if it was you, Jody, as opposed to another Jody, then you would have had the message this morning.
And Michael Elders says hello from Grand Junction, Colorado. And Edward Owen, it's actually like a big scarf, kind of a wrap thing, rather than a shirt. But thank you.
Colin Boston, John Bobbitt asking us. Okay, let's end that subject right now.
Apparently, Salman Masood wants to meet you.
Right here online, Salman.
And you can email him.
And you can also email us at gypsieskiss@gmail.com.
Didn't draw the picture. There is no hint there. I agree, Fossilman. If Forrest Fenn didn't draw the picture, there is no hint there. I don't actually think there's any hints at any pictures.
Jimmy Fast. Who owns the past? The person who has the title. That's who. You know where that comes from?
From Forrest Fenn.
Well, it comes from Forrest Fenn, but it comes from the Lorene Mills. First Lorene Mills interview that she did with Forrest. That's a quote right out of that interview. You know, for all the stuff that I can't remember.
It's a good thing I'm here.
Yeah.
Jason has another question. Toby, remember the time you got jumped for grabbing a little colored soil near the Sandia gas stop for Sean, or how the officers in Isleta responded to your drone flight? Tight margins.
Yeah. So Jason, actually, it was not Sandia. It was Hemis.
Isleta.
No. It was Hemis.
Oh, Hemis. Oh, the
so
dirt.
I was up in the
Yeah,
Hemis. I was on my way to a fishing trip up
That's
in the
right.
Hemis, and there's this area along Hemis Pueblo, on Hemis Pueblo, where you can stop and buy Native American Pueblo Indian foods. And I stopped there, and I noticed that the earth in the area was a bright red, and I thought I'd collect a little bit in an empty water bottle for my daughter Sean, so that she could turn it into a pigment and paint for her retablos. And there happened to be a sheriff's officer there, and he came over and he stopped me. And while he had his hand resting on the handle of his pistol, he asked me to pour it all out, and then gave me a lecture about how we had taken that we weren't going to be allowed to take any more of their land, which I thought was an interesting way to put it, considering that I'm 12.5% Native American, but I didn't bring that up. And
Because
then
you didn't know at the time.
I didn't know at the time. And then one time I was flying a drone. It was autumn, and I was looking for some footage for actually the footage was for a documentary that I was doing on Jason, which you can see on our Video Tarot channel. And I was flying over the Rio Grande with my drone, getting this footage, this beautiful autumn footage along the Rio Grande, and a sheriff's officer drove up behind me, drew his weapon, and told me to bring down the drone or he was going to shoot it down. And by the time we were done, there were, 5 officers right there, and they were, what was interesting about it was, I didn't want to lose my drone, so I put it in my SUV and I closed the door. And one of the officers noticed that I had a disabled veteran's license plate, a younger one. And he said, "Where did you serve?" And I told him, and he said he was in Afghanistan. And I said, "Where?" And he had been in the Korengal Valley. And so I knew the area, and we had a little conversation with that, and they let me go with a warning. But they take invasion of property very seriously.
Invasion of their sovereignty.
Yeah.
Mm. Let's see. Edward Owen. Does anyone know who drew most of the illustrations in The Thrill of the Chase? I think one is signed JF. Who is JF?
I don't remember that we've ever had an answer to the question. Alan Polt did the majority of them, and to the best of my knowledge, the one that is signed JF, he didn't do. But I don't know that we've ever found out. I'm sure Eric can tell us. Have we ever found out who the JF is? But Edward, if you look at the front of the book, it says that they were all done by Alan Polt, unless, I think the verbiage is unless otherwise indicated. Let me see if I can find it in here. Why don't you go on while I'm... Yeah, drawings by Alan Polt, unless otherwise noted.
And that's on the, what do you call that?
The frontis.
The frontis. Yeah.
And the photographs are by Doty. Alan Doty.
I'm at the bottom. Oh, yeah. That's the family that he's so close with that they've done a lot of work together.
At the bottom?
I'm at the bottom.
Okay, going up, and we are at the bottom. So you're right there.
Shelley Rumpf. Leave it alone. I figured it out. Well, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know if it was like an official thing or something that the guys just called each other.
It's
so
like foobar.
Then I could figure it out.
It's like foobar.
Yeah. I know what that means. Keep it clean for the pogs. Who are the pogs?
The forward echelon guys.
Oh. Jamie Rodriguez is here. What chapter in the book do you guys think helps solve where warm waters halt?
Fly water.
I'm going to talk more about things of this nature on Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
So make sure you tune in.
We have an interesting one for you next Tuesday.
We are going to focus on the book and some of the things that we've been finding overall in the big picture about the book that we're not covering today or haven't covered in book club. So make sure you're here Tuesday for that. David Kramer. Apparently, Sean Donson is competing with my show.
Oh. So we won't be able to see that, David Kramer, and the reason is we're doing
our own live show.
We'll talk about it. We're doing our own live show this evening. We're doing Shelley's live show this evening, so we're not going to be able to make it.
Jason says, "Officer, it wouldn't be the first time I've had to deal with anti-aircraft fire."
Yeah, he drew his weapon. And what bothered me is he looked like he had just come from a couple of margaritas. But it was good that the younger one eventually showed up. Yeah. Well,
little vision quest.
Little vision quest shooting him out. Yeah, not that it's going to be easy to shoot down a drone. He was carrying, the weapon that he was carrying was a 4-inch barrel 357 Magnum. Which I thought was an interesting carry, but that would have been, you'd have to be a damned good shot.
More dangerous to the people in the area
to
than
shoot down a drone at 300 feet.
Michael Elder.
Thankfully, it didn't get to that point.
Michael Elder just purchased a Matrix 210 with a thermal camera.
Dang. That's a big investment, Michael. That's a DJI. That's their big commercial aircraft. Well done.
Eric Schmidt.
That's got to be a $25,000 investment, doesn't it?
Eric Schmidt says no one knows for sure who JF is.
Okay, all right. Wasn't sure. But I knew if anyone did know Eric Schmidt, it was you.
I'm not sure what Holly's referring to. She says, I thought he said somewhere it may have been a journalist covering the war. Do you know what she's referring to? It's not directed to us. So she could be talking to someone else.
He does come up. He does mention that that cartoonist, that Ernie Pyle. He does mention him a couple of times, but I just can't tell you. Don't know.
POG is a person other than a grunt. Okay.
A grunt is a frontline guy.
And John Bobbitt says, Jordan Peele is doing Lorena's story, a 4-part series, movie, Get Out. I'm working on a film uncovering the cover-up. Should I mention the treasure hunt on 2020? Of course. Why not? If it's part of your life.
Yeah, you should say how much fun you have on a Gypsy's Kiss.
That's right. You say, there's these great people out there. They'll probably cut it out then.
Yeah, they'll cut it. The likelihood of that actually making it into the final product. So I would mention the treasure hunt just because it's an interesting thing. And certainly it was enough for Vanity Fair to find it interesting to mention it. So
yeah.
So why not mention it?
Oh, oops! I'll let Sean know.
You know what, David? It's a different audience, so don't feel like you guys have to change. But thank you. Yeah.
Only 79 days left to summer to find the treasure, says Craig Whittles.
What happened to the guy? Wasn't there somebody that was predicting it was going to be found by June 28th? Whatever happened to that?
Yeah.
Does that ever come up again?
You know, people all the time are saying, I'm going to find it now. I'm going to find it this weekend.
Well,
I'm going to find it tomorrow. And then you never hear from them again.
I don't think he was even saying that he was going to find it. As a matter of fact, he was saying
it will be found.
It wouldn't be found. He was just convinced. He had some sort of vision that it was going to be found before June 28th.
He didn't show his tarot cards, did he?
Apparently.
Perhaps he misread them.
Okay. AGK, yeah, 30K, that Matrix.
Well, David Dow, sorry you can't make the show, but it will be on YouTube when it's over. So yeah. I hope you'll visit it and give it a like.
Jonah Jones, only 3 weeks till he heads over. Can't wait. Make sure if you come through New Mexico, you let us know, Jonah.
Oh, is the Ant-Man coming out already?
It came out today, I think.
You know,
or last night.
After watching Infinity War, and I asked somebody who had seen it, I said, do I need to watch any other films to know what's going on? And he's like, oh, no. As long as you believe they're all superheroes, you're fine. And then we watched it, and I'm like, I have missed too many shows, too many movies to understand what's going on, all these references. I've got to go back and watch. And one of them was Ant-Man. So I found it very interesting, the whole becoming subatomic and entering the quantum field. I loved that part. So.
Is that what you're going to... Are we going to start talking... We are not going to start talking about quantum.
I just had to say I loved it. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Can you deal with that?
August 22nd is Forrest Fenn's 88th birthday, and that's when I retrieved the treasure chest, just having fun watching you guys staggering around. Well, you might be watching us staggering around in our area, because that's the week that we are going out.
When is? Who sent that?
John Bobbitt. He's going to be out on August 22nd. But I think
very nice.
He looks in Colorado. I think his area is Colorado.
Well.
No. I mean like Colorado.
Well.
Well. Okay. We're done.
And
so you know what? I think I'm starting to like that you guys don't have any questions for us, that you just come in and chat with each other. I think that's kind of cool, actually. Okay, so Michael, AGK, we bet a dinner on whether you could finish book club before the treasure was found, remember?
Did we?
Yeah, well, no, we did. We actually, when he and I had coffee at Starbucks over there by the VA hospital.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we made a bet. So I think we're going to finish book club, Michael.
Yeah, Sean, I've moved my the softer side to After Dark, so we'll be starting at 7 o'clock every Thursday.
Yeah. So
and tonight we're talking about sex.
We're going to talk about sex. Yeah, if you want to see Shelley and I talking about sex. Jason Michael, I would prefer that you not moderate this particular episode. Thank you. Okay, closing.
Yeah, so you can head over to Sean's.
Yeah, Jason Michael, go over to Sean's. Okay, so let me see. Got to make a transition here because we got to talk a little bit about the giveaway.
The giveaway. Oh, first.
First, you need to do... Wait. Hold it. We don't see you yet. All right, now you can do it.
Yes!
Make sure you push the like button and give us a like. Get thumbs up. I'll wait for you. Boop. Okay. Then make sure you share with your friends and social media contacts, Vanity Fair, or any other interviews you're doing with major news networks.
Yeah, mention us on 2020, John Bobbitt.
And then be sure you are subscribed and click on the bell to receive notifications and be notified whenever we go live or put out a new video. And then you're also eligible for giveaways when you subscribe.
Speaking of giveaways.
Yeah.
All right, here it is, Guys. Peoples.
Peps. Our peeps.
Okay, so I had to make a new rule. I'm going to call it the Joel Lewicki rule.
Joel Lewicki's a lawyer, so he's very careful about...
Or I guess I could call it the JL rule because he was going to do the same thing. So answer in the comments box below. Only your first response, this is a Joel Lewicki rule, only your first response counts So you just can't answer 20
So get
times.
it right the first time.
So your first one counts, and it's done by time. New winners only, because we got to start spreading some of this out, because we've had a bunch of guys win multiple prizes here, and I think we need to spread it out. And what you're going for today is, you're going for Aunt Lucy's cookbooks and the last of Jason's ornaments, Jason. And I ship out on Fridays. 6-hour time limit from the end of the show, and you must be a subscriber to win.
Oh, by the way,
I never thought we were going to have so many rules for this damn thing.
By the way, I just want to say this now while we're talking about Jason's ornament. Jason does teach tinsmithing. He has a 3-part series.
Well, a 3 DVD series.
3 DVD series. If you're interested in learning, or you can contact him for classes as well. But if you're interested in learning more about tinsmithing and how he does that, just contact Jason Eunice.
Yeah. So we did a pair of DVDs that was basically an intro to the subject, and then we produced a 13-episode series called New Mexico Tinsmith that he sells DVDs for. So you can actually learn it by remote. Jason, make sure you post your. I think you get them on his SP.
Etsy.
SP.
I don't know what. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the ESPN. ESPN. You can get them on Jason's SP page, so you can order them from there.
Etsy.
Did I say SP again?
Again.
Oh,
okay, guys, are you ready now? Did you get out your pencils and paper and I don't know, clip out this?
Okay, so you're going to get to see it for 3 seconds. Not 3 seconds, for 5
Or
seconds.
something
Ready?
like that.
Here we go.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it now?
Yeah, they're watching it. Ta-da!
Yay.
All right.
Hope you got that. Are we ready to close out?
We are.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today and for being a part of the AJK Book Club. We appreciate you coming in, asking your questions, and sharing your lives with us. Thank you so much to our moderators for being here and keeping the chat moderated and safe and happy and healthy. And again, I have a show this evening, 7:00 p.m. Mountain Time.
What's this topic?
It's The Softer Side After Dark, and we're going to be talking about married men's #1 complaint, not enough sex, and how we can turn that around for you. So make sure you tune in. We're going to have a great he said, she said moment after the presentation. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And we've got a couple of emails that we're going to also be reading out loud so that we can address those questions from those people who emailed with concerns and questions about our topic. So that's 7:00 tonight. And we're going to go live, but it'll be up on YouTube afterwards if you don't have a chance to see it. Anything else? Tomorrow is our All About You. Hopefully. We had a last-minute cancellation, so we're trying to contact the next in line. So, but we're going to do our best on that.
We'll do our best. If we don't, I don't have a backup, so it is possible that we may not publish, and it's All About You tomorrow, but I'll do my best to ensure that we do, because I really like them. I really like putting them up. Make sure you take a look at that video that I recently posted about Margie Goldsmith. She goes, she's a journalist and goes back a long way, back to 2011 with this treasure hunt, and she's written several articles, and we did interview her at one point. So take a look at that. It's interesting work. She was one of the people that I think is most responsible for having turned the treasure hunt from a local thing in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to national and even international. So take a look at that video. It's kind of fun.
We do have something new. If you guys are on Instagram and you're interested, there's something called IGTV, and we have our own channel, and we're starting to post videos there as well. But pretty much they're the same ones, short ones that we have on YouTube. So if you're already subscribing here, that's great. If you want to see them on IGTV, we're going to start putting them up there as well. So give them a like. Anything else?
Scott Pruitt resigned.
Resign.
Lori James says Scott Pruitt resigned.
No comment, and we're ready to go have a little party now. So thank you for being here. We appreciate your presence. And for Gypsy's Kiss, the book club, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you this evening on, although this isn't the Gypsy's Kiss, we'll see you this evening on the softer side. We think it's going to be fun.
I think so.
If you want to know more about
us.
So, take care.
Bye-bye.